Hi, John. Thank you for coming today. And we
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate
me.
you coming. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself to like put more context in the conversation?
I'm John from Ghana. I had my undergraduate degree at the University of Ghana. I graduated in 2021 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Russian. Yeah, and I'm currently in the US pursuing my master's degree in Public Administration at Bowling Green State University. I just finished my first year, which is my second semester in the program. So I have like 1 year and 1 year, 2 semesters to go. So that's a bit about me. And I'm I love soccer, as they call it in the US, but I love football.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love music as well. So yeah, I think that's a bit about me.
Okay. So how did you start your graduate school application journey? And then what were your considerations in choosing a school?
So initially, my plan was to go to school in Germany. So that was where I was doing most of my research. I was doing most of my research about schools because in Germany it was free tuition. So you just need to get admission, be able to fund your visa, and then just go. But some way, somehow, I got to find out about the fact that most US schools were no more requiring the GRE, because that was the major reason why I decided not to pursue my education in the US. So when I found out about it, I decided to start searching for schools that mainly don't require GRE. So that was like the first criteria that I was looking at. And then secondly, I was looking at schools in cities that had like very low standard of living. And so I came across Bowling Green through a friend, and I checked the standard of living. I checked the average rent price for students. I checked like their tuition fees, the kind of scholarships they have, grade assistantship and everything. So I checked all those and I decided to apply to that. Before that, I had also applied to University of Minnesota and Northeastern University. But these two universities are like in places where cost of living is really, really high.
Right.
So I was banking all my hopes on Bowling Green, hoping that I'll get admission there and then get funding. So thankfully, I got admitted to the MPA program and I got partial funding, which was like 50%, almost like 70% of my fees will be covered, and then 10 hours per week right assistantship. So I decided to go for that. But then I wanted 20-hour grad assistantship before I go for my visa interview. So I started looking around on the school's website to see whether they have like other how do you call it? Like other grad assistantship openings. So I checked, and that's when I realized, okay, some other departments are looking for grad assistantships, and I applied, and I got into one of the departments, that's the Department of Asian Studies Program and International Studies. So that's why I'm doing my grad assistantship. So I rejected the offer, the GA offer from Political Science, which is the MPA program, and then I took the GA offer from that side, but I still took the scholarship from the Political Science department. So yeah, so I mean, mainly was due to the standard of living, the MPA program, the scholarships, and then the grad assistantship.
Okay. So like coming from a social sciences field, we all know that for like the sciences or most STEM degree programs, you
Yeah.
have to get a statement of purpose, your personal statement. You have to write lots of essays. Like how was the application process from a social sciences background?
Yeah, for most of the social sciences, you don't really need to know a professor to recommend you before you are admitted. They have like a straightforward application process. That is, you have to write a statement of purpose, which is like a major requirement in all schools that I I searched or researched on. You also have to have at least 3 or 2 letters of recommendation from your previous school or your previous place of work. So For Bowling Green, they needed just two, but in most of the schools that I searched, they needed three. So you have to make sure that you have at least three people who would be willing to recommend you to all the schools. So you need that. You need your statement of purpose. Um, you also need your transcript and certificate if it's really needed. But as at the time I was applying, my certificate wasn't ready because I had not graduated. So I only used my transcript or like my final transcript from University of Ghana. And you also need to prove your English language proficiency. Luckily for students from Ghana, most of the schools have waived it. So you just sometimes need to take a letter of proficiency from the school you graduated from. So I took a letter of proficiency um, from the University of Ghana that I did my undergrad in English, and so I'm very proficient in English to the C1 level. So that's what I sent to them instead of the TOEFL and IELTS. So I didn't write any of those, but I know some schools really require it. University of Minnesota required that I do at least Duolingo test, which I did, but it wasn't really like anything hard if you are an English speaker from Ghana. Yeah, so most of the time that's what you need. Some schools would make the GRE optional, and that is because sometimes when they get a huge chunk of applications, they tend to go into that one to try to disqualify some. So even though it is not really like required, if you have the ability to write and pass, then do it. But if not, you don't really have to kill yourself. You just need to have like good grades. And if I say good grades, doesn't only mean first class. You can have a second class upper or like second class lower, but you should put in, because application process is like a whole package. So it's the package you would give to them. So your transcripts may be low, but how you're able to express yourself in your statement of purpose is really important. Your letters of recommendation are also very important. So I mostly advise people not to go in for professors who would give you like a generic letter of recommendation. Go in for people who would write a good letter of recommendation, directing everything to the school. You give them details about the school, about the program, so that they write and link your capabilities to that particular program. Make it like specific, not just generic. And that's also like very, very important. So I think these are the major things that I would advise anyone in the social science field, because I know that in the sciences and health field, sometimes you need to speak to a professor to accept you into their lab, especially the PhD
Right.
student. Yeah, but in the social science, you don't even need that. Even when you're going to do your PhD, sometimes you don't even need to contact anybody. Just apply with a good application packet, then you're good to go.
Okay. I think you briefly spoke about how you secured your funding
Yeah.
for you got a partial funding and then you applied to other GA positions. In that process, what was the challenges you faced? Like, was there a pushback from the school?
Yeah, I mean, for my department, that's what I like about them, because they want everyone to be like fully funded. That's what they want to do, but sometimes they are restricted with their budget and everything. So when my confirmation letter came from my guide coordinator, he informed me that he sent me the link to the other GA positions and told me that I can apply to them. And if I'm lucky enough to get a 20-hour GA, I can take that, and then they can pass on the 10-hour that they offered me to the next person in line. Get it? So it was not a really huge issue. So I had to just apply. So I lucky enough, I had all my documents ready. I had like a sample SOP that I was editing based on the case or the application that I was applying to. So it wasn't really difficult for me. And so I had to like keep doing that, keep applying to other schools and other departments. And I got into that. I got into interdisciplinary studies, which is like the Asian Studies program, International Studies, and Africana Studies combined. So when I got that, I informed my graduate coordinator that okay, I've finally been successful in getting a 20-hour GA from this department. I was like, okay, that's good. So I can accept that whilst they pass on my 10-hour GA to the next person in line. So I think it was all in all, it was a win-win situation for
For them?
myself,
Yeah.
for the department, and also for another candidate who was waiting in line for some kind of funding.
Okay. So with the 20-hour GA position, did you do any interview?
Yeah, I did, but it wasn't really difficult. And mostly, I tell people to apply to places that you know you can work at. Because where I was supposed to work, it was mostly it's a research assistant too, so it's mostly like administrative duties, social media, website management, those kind of things. And I already had experiences in that, so it was on my CV that I've managed this website. I have a blog. I've done some administrative duties during my national service as a TA in Legon. So when they sent me the link for the interview, it was just like formalities. They were just asking me to confirm, and then like
Right.
asking me situations or instances where I did this or that. So it wasn't really like a huge thing, probably to me. But I mean, you always have to try and apply to places where you know that you have some idea and some insight about, so that the interview will be just like a formality.
Except for a common challenge like financial constraints, what challenges did you face in the process and how did you overcome it? How did you get someone to pay your MRV, like those stuff?
Yeah, so the financials was definitely hard because
Right.
I mean I was just a national service personnel, and I had not informed my family about what I was doing.
You
So
wanted to do low key stuff, huh?
yeah, so like most of the things were on me. I had to pay. I remember I had to sacrifice 1 month NSS allowance to pay for the application fee to Bowling Green, and thank God it paid off. So after that, when everything came, now I had to pay the $160 for the MRV. I had to get a bank statement. I had to pay 300 and I don't know, I think $320 for the service fee and everything. So lucky enough, I had a very supportive sister whom I informed afterwards. She was really happy that at least I decided to take a step further in my career and pursue education in America. So she was kind of happy. So she helped me with the $160. I think that time the CD and the dollar wasn't really, that high. So I think it was around 1,600 Ghana cedis or so. So she helped me with that. And the service fee, yeah, I mean, I know not everyone will have it this way, but I had friends in the US. I had like my two best friends were in the US. So and we had always been planning on meeting. They barely have time to come to Ghana. So when this opportunity came out, they were like, they have to do everything to help me. So I remember they contributed and paid a service fee for me. So that
Hmm.
wasn't a big issue for me. So I mean, I was lucky, but if you are not lucky enough, sometimes what I tell people who find themselves in like difficult situations in this instance is that it's an investment into your future, and one of the investments that you may never regret.
It's
So you have to
education.
go to the extra mile. If you have to borrow some money, borrow it and do it, because it's a really good investment. Because education is a good investment on its own, and education in the USA like tops it up. So I got to do that, and I think the major difficulty I faced was the visa interview. Because during our time, which is like last year, 2021, 2022 period, that was when the embassy was recovering from the COVID blow and everything. So they were now trying to come back to full setting. So it was very difficult to get an appointment date to go for the interview. So I remember we created like a lot of WhatsApp groups to be hunting for dates and everything. So you barely get some sleeps because we'll do like a schedule. So maybe John will be checking or monitoring the portal from 3 a.m. to 3:30 a.m. So when you go there and there is date, you come and inform the guys that hey, there is date, so that everyone can rush and get some. If not, then the next person will do it. So like it was a cycle where like my sleep cycle distorted because sometimes you cannot sleep at night. Even if you are sleeping, your phone should not be on silence because when a date come and someone drops it, you may not know. So that was like a major difficulty. But I know this year, like there are a lot of appointment dates available, so people are not facing that difficulty. And the second one was preparing for the visa interview. So with that as well, lucky enough through the date hunting process,
You met
we
friends.
we made friends and we decided to start like mock interviews amongst ourselves. So we took like sample questions from different transcripts that we've read and started interviewing ourselves like peer-to-peer visa interviews, and it became like really popular amongst ourselves. So we had like at a point we had over 100 people logging on every single day to be interviewed. Yeah, so that's what we did. And for my first interview, I felt like I was denied, and I went I went back like
So,
2 weeks
how
later.
long did it take for you to reapply again? Like, was it within the same academic application process, or did you have to wait a year again?
No, no, no. It was the same time. I wasn't going to give up. I mean, so when I was denied, I think the following day I went to buy a new MRV, started the whole
Wow.
application process again, and then started the date hunting process, like the every single thing again. And then luckily for me, I got a date like 2 weeks after I got denied, and I had to go again. So I went again, and this time around I was approved. So it's a never give up process. If you
Right,
give up,
right.
you lose.
Yeah, so like everyone I've spoken to that is in the US, you see that the person had to like sacrifice a lot of time, right? How different was the first interview from the second interview? Like,
Yeah, so for the first one, that's like a funny story because he didn't really ask me a lot of questions, and initially I didn't know what I did wrong.
mhm.
It was like really tough to accept it, but later on, after I started like thinking about it, I realized there was one problem. So I had traveled to Russia in 2019. Between 2019 to 2020, I went to Russia in November 2019, came back to Ghana in August 2020. And then when I came back, January 2021, between January 2021 to June 2022, I did an online course. It was an Erasmus exchange program with a university in Czech Republic. Okay, so when I was applying during the DS-160 application process, I put it there that I have education. I did some courses in Russia and some in Czech Republic. But then when it came to my travel history, I only put that of Russia there. And
Oh,
definitely, I didn't indicate that the education in Czech Republic was online.
online.
So I think that was where the viewer was a bit confused about why I had studied in Czech Republic, but I omitted that from my DS-160. And then I should have attached all my passport because the old passport I used, the one with the Russian visa, had expired. So I had a new passport, and I handed him only the new passport. So when you opened it, there was no Russian visa, like it was empty. So it created a lot of doubt in his mind. So he told me that he cannot approve me, so I should apply later. So I made these corrections, and I made sure that this time round, when they asked me about my travel history, I mentioned it and let them know that the Czech Republic was online. So I never traveled to Czech Republic. So I did that, and then that was how come I went the second time. And then one thing I did was the funding I got. You remember I said my scholarship at political science was like 70%. So they were taking care of. They will be paying 6 out of 9 credit hours of my tuition fees, and then I'll get the 20-hour GA position, which will give me like stipends full time in the department. So I informed my department that I've been denied, and they were asking me about how they can help. No, but I told them that I think probably the funding was not enough to the view, and they were like, "Oh, okay." So I don't know. I don't know whether it was a miracle or they just wanted to help, and so they came back. My GA department, not political science, where I was going to do my MPA, where I was going to do my GA, they came back and they were like, "Okay, thankfully we've been able to get some more funding for you to cover your full tuition. So they will be taking care of the 3 credit hours." So now I had like a stronger case because I have full tuition, I have full GA position. So like I'm good to go. So that's what I returned to the interview with. And I think it proved to be very,
The
very
yeah.
important. Yeah.
Getting denied, I think what really helped was the self-assessment that you did. Like,
Yeah.
what made me get denied? Because oftentimes people have been denied like 4 times, right?
Yeah.
And the assumption is that like they are just there denying people. So we don't
Yeah.
take the time to do that self-assessment. I'm sure
Hmm.
if you didn't do that assessment, you wouldn't have known that, oh, maybe it was because of funding, maybe it was because of the travel history. So I think that was a good point to make. And then from your speech, I feel like you had this kind of a bit more personal or relationship with the department you come to study with. Like you were in constant communication, right?
Yeah. Very
So
important.
it helped you, right? So it helped you like even get full funding after you got denied. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people also get denied because of the funding issue. So make sure you really know like how you are going about the funding. If it's partial, you should know where the other part of the funding is going to come from, right? And then you
Yeah.
mention it in the visa interview. Wow,
Hmm.
that's an
It's very
amazing
important.
experience.
Well, like I was in constant communication with them, like emailing almost every day, giving them
Mm-hmm.
steps. Okay, so today I have a date. My date is this. And they're like, okay, good luck. So like they were with me throughout because I was updating them almost every single day about the progress I'm making in the application process. So it's very, very important. And you have to assess yourself. I know a lot of people get denied and they get emotional and be like, oh, I'll not go to the Ghana embassy again. I'm going to Cote d'Ivoire. I'm going here. I'm going there. No.
Yeah.
If you go there with the same problem, they will still deny you. Just assess
Mm-hmm.
yourself and then know what went wrong and correct that.
Yep. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
What would you do differently if you were to start your whole application process again?
Um, I think I would research on more schools. I love Bowling Green. Like I really, really love Bowling Green, and I wouldn't exchange it for anything. But I think probably I would still search for more schools and apply to more schools just to get like a lot of options to choose from. Yeah, but then I think the first thing is that I would work on my statement of purpose properly and my whole application packet in a whole. Because I feel like probably I could have gotten the full funding from my department if
From
my
scratch.
application, yes, if my application was really, really strong. I'm not saying it wasn't strong, it was, but probably I could have done way better. So I would advise that if you are applying, like go through your application process like over and over again. Your statement of purpose, your transcript, make sure that there is no mistake. If you have someone, you can let them go through your statement of purpose, make some corrections for you, and all those things. They are very, very important. I think that would be the main thing that I would do it. I'll do properly because I really love Bowling Green, and I don't know. I would want to stay here forever, maybe.
Yep. So as we log off, like what else do you want to say? This has been very good. Like the part that you got a visa denial and you still went.
The US application system is said that, I mean, you can reapply as many times as you want when you get denied. So it's not the end of the journey. Definitely, when you get denied, it will be really, really hard. I mean, in the first few weeks, it will be really, really hard. But if you are really determined on getting to the US to study, then you do some self-assessment and go again. I know some people who were denied like 3, 4 times, and the day that I went for my visa interview, I met this guy who was going for his fourth attempt and he was denied. And later on, when I was reapplying, I was doing it with him. And then that was when he realized that he had made a mistake in his visa appointment portal. You know, there is the DS-160, and then there is the visa application portal where you book the date. So when you are booking the date, they ask you for some details about where you are going, your school, and everything. So the mistake he had made was that after he got his first denial, he changed the schools to a different school.
Mm.
And when he was reapplying, he forgot to update that portal with the new school. So he was going to the visa interview with like different school on his DS-160, different school on his visa application portal, which is like a huge problem for them because like you need to be able to pay attention to details. So they assume that when you come, it means that you've done the due diligence in all these fields and you know exactly what you are presenting to them. So he had gone to the visa interview with this thing for like 3 times and he was getting denied. So it was after the fourth, it was during his fifth attempt that I asked him whether he had like checked all those things. When he checked, the old school was the one day. So he changed it and he got the visa on the fifth attempt. So sometimes it's not just about, because if the embassy denies you, they approve people.
Yeah.
So it's not about the fact like the embassy is just there denying people. No,
Yeah.
you have to assess yourself properly and like pay attention to details. Try to recollect everything you said during the interview, like what you remember the video asking you. Sometimes they ask you certain questions twice, and after that, the denial comes.
Mm.
You have to know that okay, probably this is where everything was going on, everything was going wrong. So you have to like pay attention to those details because it's very, very important. And pay attention to your DS-160. Everything you say, it should be coherent with what is on your I-20. It should be coherent with what is on your DS-160, CGI portal, everywhere. Every document that you submit, everything should be okay. So I mean, it's a process that you don't have to really give up on because education in the USA is really
It's a
good.
life changing one, be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a life
it's
changing
a
one.
really important step that you don't have to really give up on
Yeah.
after one attempt. So I mean, that's what I would like to say to people, and like try to make friends and try to have like that kind of communication skills, like a good communication skills where you can communicate properly with the school. I know some people don't really know how to send good emails. Like learn it's a really good soft skill that you must have. How to be able to express yourself in an email without sounding rude, at the same time without sounding too desperate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those things are really important. Yeah. So I think that's what I would say.
Key takeaway from this is that we all have the assumption that the videos, some are there just to deny people, right?
Yeah.
But then once you have been denied a visa, you should take a time and go through a proper self-assessment check.
Yeah.
They might not be denying you for any reason. There must be something you did wrong or something that went wrong. And
Uh-huh.
then once you figure it out, you can pray as well. We should not associate everything to the fact that like the witches in our house don't want us to come to the US. So
Yeah. That's true.
yeah, thank you, John. This has been very, very good. I thank you for coming. Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
for
me.
your time. Yeah.